We're also following breaking news in the last half hour. This on IBM. The shares are up on news that Ginni Rometty is going to be stepping down as the CEO. I think it's April 6th that she will step down officially. Arvind Krishna, currently the SVP of the company's cloud and cognitive software segment, is going to take over on the 6th of April. Rometty will remain as the executive chairman. That will be until the end of the year. She has been the CEO since 2012, and investors like it right now. It's been a rough go. There's no doubt about it, in terms of trying to invest in companies that are going to grow faster or invest in parts of the business that are going to provide some sort of growth, while, of course, you've got this book of business that is enormous that is not really growing.
Right. So software and those services, but certainly cloud. And we talked, look, they reported last week they had a very good quarter. And they actually grew revenues 1%, which countered this. They've had this trend of kind of bad quarter, good quarter. So they keep doing that. And in fact, the stock was kind of where it's gone into the after hours last week. And in fact, has sold into this news. But there's no question that the expectation that the Red Hat acquisition gets them in the type of place that puts them with some of the other people we've been talking about for the last 5 minutes. That's the story here. And this is certainly an insider from IBM that I think people feel can take them there.
Short of me butchering her name a week or so ago.
Come on, you do that?
I do that on a nightly basis.
I mean,
but I knew the name. I just said it incorrectly. But what I said was on their fourth quarter on January 22nd, this would be a perfect opportunity for her to sort of leave the firm and hand it over to somebody else. And that's what's taking place now. To Tim's point, the stock is back to exactly where we were a week ago post-earnings. But I'm not suggesting this is Microsoft by any stretch. But a lot of people thought Microsoft was impossible for them to turn that aircraft carrier around 5 years ago. They did it. And with this Red Hat acquisition, although they paid through the nose for it, IBM might be on the verge of similar. I think you sell it here at your own peril. I think IBM could be a surprise stock for 2020.
Isn't it, though, odd that they haven't turned the ship around sooner than this? Like, if you look back, where was she around from? 2012, you had said, David? Yeah. So 2013 was the high, $215. Down 40%, basically, from there. Under her watch,
right? Earnings are really not any better either.
Not there. I don't believe they could turn the ship around.
That doesn't take into account the significant repurchases, right? So, in fact, the earnings, I mean, as it ends up, those repurchases have ended up...
Lost Warren Buffett along the way, who was relatively briefly for him, an important investor.
But this should have been cloud. This should have been AI. They did a lot of great stuff. It's an amazing company. It just is not translated to a better stock price. It's still on a declining trend line going back to 2013. So, to Guy's point, you have to kind of break out of that trend before you get new investors willing to get on board with IBM, because they see it as that old company, not a new one.
And I just, but on Red Hat, remember, I mean, people were horrified at the price they paid for this company. And actually, in hindsight, it looks genius when you consider the synergies also that seem to be now working for Red Hat. And again, sequentially, they went from 20% growth to 24% growth they just announced on Red Hat, which means they are getting some of those synergies. And maybe this is actually the multiple you pay for.
I had one conversation before we got on air with somebody who was involved, said it's been 6 to 8 months. The board has obviously been thinking about this. The most important single thing a board does typically is, of course, decide who's going to take over a company. And they have been doing that. Martin Schroeder had been somebody you might have thought about who would have potentially been a candidate to take over as well. Whitehurst stays because he also has been thought of, perhaps would he step into the CEO role. He's 52. I think the new gentleman who's going to be CEO is 57, so I guess he's still in play as a future CEO. But they keep him, importantly, and now he moves up to president.
I think it's really important. I mean, to Tim's point, listen, I don't know this to be factual. The counterfactual you can't do, but in today's environment, given what's happened, they probably have to pay another 30% more for Red Hat today than when they did it originally. So it probably was a stroke of genius, and they overpaid, but they had to overpay, not unlike Major League Baseball teams that sometimes have to overpay for a player. Just putting it out there to the Met fans on the desk.
But the new leader has to be, to your point, has to be somebody from the cloud divisions, from those divisions. You can't have somebody
industry data,
cognitive,
all the things
all the
that
stuff,
they have
not
focused
hardware.
on, that they have obviously that are growing faster, but can outpace the significant decline in the legacy, as they call it, businesses. We see this a lot. I mean, you try and change a company like this,
well, the
but
culture,
it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, a company like this.
Yeah.
But
well,
really,
it still has what, 400,000 employees.
Right. I think you said she's staying on till the end of the year.
Yes.
It makes sense that she would leave as chairman and they would just get someone new. It sort of seems to be a good corporate governance practice to have a new chairman when you have a new CEO.
The only thing
Not the old CEO.
Right,
I mean.
right. So I don't know whether there will be a split role or not. That actually is an interesting question as to whether when she departs, will he just take over as chairman or not?
Quickly on valuation, if it even matters here, I mean, it always has to matter. But if you look at the mega cap tech space and what's been going on here, IBM trades at 10.5 times next year. And I realize we're talking about a company that's had trouble growing earnings, but the valuation, if you're looking at relative value at a time when mega cap tech has had a huge run, I think people have to think about IBM in this context, and they're going to buy it on the come. I think they're going to buy it on a CEO that certainly is committed to cloud, and we've seen this movie before.
Curious to see what Rometty chooses to do as well. I've seen her a lot around at a lot of conferences. Which always is a sign, communicating a lot about a lot of different things beyond IBM.
So is that running for office?
Yeah,
is that
you wonder.
She looking to be head of a university?
I don't know. I'll be very curious to see what she ends up doing. Of course, as you say, she will still be executive chair at least till the end of the year.